Everybody, welcome back to another REI weekly lesson. I am Greg Helbeck, and thank you for either watching or listening to this. If you're not familiar with me, this is a channel and a podcast where I share with you the decade of real estate investing experience that I've learned through the trenches. So if you do get value from this video or podcast, if you could do me a favor, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and if you're listening to this on an audio platform, you can share the show with other people. That's how we keep growing the show on a weekly basis. So without further ado, today's topic is how do you deal with shady sellers and wholesalers, right? If you're in this business for a while, you're going to run into them all the time. It's pretty frustrating, but at the end of the day, if you keep your cool and you stick to your grounds, you can still do business with these people once in a while as the buyer, because I would never recommend you as the seller be shady because that's never good. But what I'm really referring to here is people who give you their word and then they renegotiate, or they give you their word and then they forget that they made a deal with you and now they want to renegotiate or back out or whatever. So how do you keep your cool with them? How do you handle them in a way that potentially gets you the property versus having it go to the wayside? So I've dealt with this a lot. I've dealt with wholesalers that piss me off. I've dealt with many, many sellers who have pissed me off. And the first thing you want to do when you're dealing with people like this is you want to get them to admit, verbally at least, because nothing happens till a contract is signed in real estate. Ask me how I know. You want to get them to verbally admit that they will sell you a property at a specific price, right? You want to get them to at least acknowledge that and have it come out of their mouth, because until the contract is signed, you really don't have a deal. And when you get the sellers or wholesalers in this case to do that, you can sort of hold them to it, just from an integrity standpoint, not from a contractual standpoint. But human beings generally, not all the time, are congruent on what they say, right? There's the law of congruency. That's a basic level of communication and influence. So let's say, for example, you get a wholesaler who's like, I'll sell you this property, and you offer them their asking price. And they said, yeah, we can do that. It's like a vague commitment there. And you would say, okay, so Mr. Wholesaler, you're telling me if I give you the price you want of 500 grand, you're telling me you'll sell this thing and we'll be good to go. So step number one, get them to acknowledge verbally. Step two, try as soon as possible to get them to send you the paperwork, right? This is where you got to be careful, because what happens a lot of the times, especially with wholesalers, is that they might tell you that they'll sell you the property. And then what happens is they don't send you the paperwork for a couple hours because they're trying to get someone else to pay more money. And then in that case, you got to follow up with them and you got to say, hey, I thought we had a deal. You told me you were going to send me the assignment agreement. It's been 3 hours, which is a reasonable length of time. And if they start at this point to give you like some resistance, like, well, I'm getting to it, I'm busy. If they give you something like that, that's not the truth. They're not busy, because if they wanted to sell their deal fast, they would send it to you on the spot. What they're trying to do is they're trying to shop it around for more offers. So now let's pretend we run into a roadblock and now we're dealing with an objection. Like the wholesaler doesn't want to sell it to you, or the seller is like getting cold feet on signing the contract. Now what you want to do is you want to label the objection and see if it's the truth. So let's say if it's a wholesaler, for example. I know I'm picking on wholesalers now, but there's a lot of shady ones out there. Hey, Mr. Wholesaler, it might seem like I'm being pushy, which I'm trying not to come off as, but however, it sounds like you're not sending me this assignment agreement because you're trying to sell this to someone else for more money. Is that true? And if that's the case, just let me know. It's all good. I mean, I just want to know where we stand. Most of the time they'll say, yeah, I wanted to really get more, even though you gave them their asking price usually. Weird. And then you're like, well, listen, it sounds to me like the price I'm offering you, which is your asking price, isn't going to get it done. Is that the case? I mean, you need me to pay more money? Like, what would it take for you to send me the assignment agreement right now so we can do this deal? And then at that point, most of the time they're going to say, I want an extra 5 grand, 10 grand, 15 grand. And then at that point, you got to decide, is this worth paying more money for or not? Now, if they say they want more money and the deal still works for you financially, I would go back to them and say, listen, if I come up in price and I give you this price you want now, can you please send me the assignment agreement within 10 minutes so we can get this to escrow? And if they say, yeah, I will, and you don't have that contract within 10 minutes, they're bullshitting you, and I would just ignore them and most likely not do business with them, because they're going to probably scam you or fuck you over or do something. So if that's the case, no big deal. Just move on. Don't deal with a shady cat like that, because they're not being straightforward, because they're breaking their integrity 2 times in a row. Now, if they actually send you the assignment agreement, the objection was the price, they weren't truthful about it, it is what it is. You pay 10 grand more, you buy the house, you make some money, you do-si-do, and there we go. So that's how you handle a wholesaler. Now with a seller, similar situation. Hey, listen, sounds like you're reluctant to sell me the property for 500. What would it take for you to sign a piece of paper that will indicate we're doing a deal today? What would it take for you to sign a contract today? Oh, I want more money. Well, how much is more money? So you're telling me if I give you 520, you'd sign the contract right now? Yes. Okay, so now, obviously, you send them the contract. If they don't sign it, they're full of shit. You move on. If they do sign it, there you go. You get the deal. So here's the point. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Don't lose your cool with these people, right? I used to lose my cool like a lunatic with people, and I used to be crazy. And I sometimes will do that, but not that much anymore. And I want to try to keep my cool to see if I can save the deal. And then afterwards, if we get the deal, great. If we don't get the deal and the person ends up going, selling to someone else, or they're not forthcoming with me, I'm definitely not going to do business with them anymore. So just don't lose your cool. Try to act as professional as possible. It is very annoying, especially when you're dealing with like a wholesaler, because it's like a B2B sale and they break their word, because that could be a continuous relationship, but it is what it is. You can't control people and their ability to make decisions. You can just control how you come out and how you communicate with others. So those are my tips with dealing with shady wholesalers and sellers. Step number 1, get them to acknowledge verbally that they'll do the deal with you. And if they send you the paperwork, great. Step 2, if they, kind of screw you over and string you along, try to identify the root issue, label the issue, and see if you fix the issue. Would they do business with you and send you the paperwork? Step number 3, or tip number 3, don't lose your cool with them. Don't blow them up. Don't scream at them. I've done it. Doesn't work that well. Doesn't really solve anything. So those are my tips on mostly dealing with wholesalers who are shady. It applies to sellers too. And I hope these tips were helpful. If you're in Seattle, New York, the Hudson Valley, Delaware, Reno, or San Diego, and you have a house you want to wholesale to me, I'll be a straightforward buyer. I won't screw you around. Send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or send me an Instagram DM @grego37, and I'll see you on the next REI weekly lesson.